Hello, everyone. Aloha. Thank you for joining this app. We're very excited for this conversation. Our moderator for today is going to be the elusive, the multi talented Malachi Bailey. And I am going to hand it over for him to dive in with our panelists about Disney Plus Marvel's newest series, Miss Marvel. All right, Malachi, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dana. I appreciate it. Everybody, welcome. I'm glad to have my friends here, Teresa and Furious, to discuss the deliciousness that is Ms. Marvel. I'm glad that he's caught up because we intend to dig in. No shade thrown at you, but
It's
I
okay.
think we be all on the same page. Um, so I guess the introductions are necessary for those who don't know. Ladies first, ladies first, ladies first.
Oh no.
So So Teresa Kennedy, she is a sales administrator, an aspiring cosplayer, and a superhero buff. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. And of course, we have Furious Jenkins, who is an engineer, a scientist, a gamer, a blurred, and a sci-fi lover. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we are here to discuss the limited series that is Ms. Marvel. It concluded last Wednesday. And as I was telling you guys before we started, you know, I thought it was great. It was a really, interesting show. The the big MCU moment, which I'll get into later, I'm still, looking for the shoes that I threw across the room. My edges have not grown back yet because, it was only last week. And of course, there was the post credit scene that we'll also discuss because that is pretty major as well. So, my first question for Teresa, and then you, Furious. What do you know about Ms. Marvel?
Well, as I mentioned last week, I'm not. I kind of feel at a disadvantage a bit because I'm not a comics person. I didn't start with the comics, so I've started with the movies and the TV and streaming. I guess Disney Plus is still TV, but whatever. So these are the characters that I know. These are the people that I know. So I hear buzz about Ms. Marvel's powers having been changed from what they were in the comics, and the origin and things like that. And that I'm not aware of. I just know what I saw, and I really enjoyed what I saw.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Now, Furious is more so on my page, no pun intended, when it comes to the comic lore. Please stop. So, we've been familiar with this character or the essence of the character now for many years.
Mhm.
Uh, so what do you know about Ms. Marvel? Because I imagine it's a lot.
So I actually read probably the first 15 or so issues of her series when it came out. So
Okay.
I have a decent bit, at least I didn't, I got to a point where there was just too much stuff in life going on and I didn't get a chance to go back to Miss Marvel, but it was somewhere around the first 15 issues. So I feel like I've got a good bit of understanding of the character and her origins. And I like that they're going for younger superheroes.
Hmm.
It's also really cool that we're finally getting more black and brown representation of
Absolutely.
main characters, not just side characters in the comics. And one thing I really enjoyed was the way that her story plays out in the comic and in the series weren't exactly one to one, but I love that they stayed true to the cultural roots and how the
Hmm.
storytelling and how I've got other friends of mine that are from other countries, and some of their stories have been similar to what Miss Marvel's is, as far as like the family involvement. And sometimes you've got one sibling treated different than another. I'm not necessarily a fan of the term overprotective parents, but sometimes, but I think in some certain situations we'll use it. So I, like I said, I think I've got a decent understanding of the character.
Okay, I appreciate it. So for me, it's a little different. Um, when I first think about, the term Ms. Marvel, I'm thinking about this statuesque, blue-eyed, blonde-hair woman who was the editor of, I think it was Ms. Magazine. So we're going back to a time before I was born. So it was her first comic book series. I think it was released in 1977. And I think about Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel because she was Ms. Marvel for years.
Mhm.
And from what I remember, not remember, but from what I remember reading about from that particular series, that's also where Mystique of the X-Men debuted. That was the first, time we saw her. And for some reason, she had an issue with Carol Danvers, and she spent the first maybe like 2 years, fighting her to the point where they brought in Rogue, who is, a beloved X-Men character. And when Rogue first came out, as opposed to having the white hair in the middle, they gave her the white hair on the sides, gave her the Reed Richards look, and she stole her powers. So for me, when I think about Ms. Marvel, I think about Carol Danvers. So there have been times when she didn't go by that name. She became binary. I want to say in 1982 when she had her powers stolen, and then I want to say in 1997 she's back to her original look and she's wearing the Wasp design costume. So she's going by Warbird. So in that time frame, we did have a Captain Marvel, the first female Captain Marvel who was a black woman who was I think she was a lieutenant in Louisiana, and she had the most luscious looking afro, and she had the buccaneer boots, and she had the star, blast on her chest, and she became an Avenger, and she eventually became the leader. So for me, I have too many different versions of Ms. Marvel in my head. So when they finally decided to dust off the name Ms. Marvel, I want to say 2015 is when they did the Infinity storyline, and that's when Marvel was really pushing the Inhumans because
Yeah.
they knew they couldn't get their hands on the mutants because they were owned by Fox then, and they said, "Okay, we'll make the Inhumans the new mutants." So, you see what I did there? So when they did that, they they brought in these new characters. So around that time, I want to say the Terrigenous, the Terrigen mist were used
Mhm.
to make the Inhumans, come into their power,
Right.
and it was pretty much their rite of passage. So in a comic book, Black Bolt, he released. I don't. Maybe it was him or maybe it was someone else, but we'll say Black Bolt. He released the Terrigen mist over the Earth, and
Mhm.
whoever had a dormant, inhuman gene, their powers manifested. And one of those characters was, Kamala Khan. So, like for me, she was always in the background, I guess, in my peripheral vision. But now she had her own freaking series. I mean, you can't ignore her and know what you want to. So I'm not going to go off on another tangent because I can go on and on about this, but that's what I know about Ms. Marvel.
Mhm.
So I guess my next question for you, Furious, which version do you prefer?
Which version of?
Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel. We'll say Ms. Marvel.
Mm.
Speaks to your heart.
So okay, so I'm if which version do I prefer? I prefer the
Yes.
Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Monica Rambeau will always be Captain Marvel in my heart.
Yeah.
I know that she's probably going to either be Spectrum or Photon in the Marvels movie, but to me, she's always going to be the first Captain Marvel. Um, One thing that I do love about Kamala Khan as Ms. Marvel is I love her energy.
Mm-hmm.
She is so excited to be able to be a superhero that it's just kind of refreshing because sometimes you see certain superheroes who feel like their powers are a burden, but Kamala Khan sees her powers as, like they said in the series, where's the brown girl from New Jersey who gets to be a superhero? So
Yeah.
she sees her powers as this wonderful thing where she can help all these people, and it's wonderful to see that energy as from for a change instead of somebody thinking that their powers are a burden or a curse.
Mhm. That's fair. I'm gonna have to tweak the question a little bit for Teresa because she's not yet, she is versed in all things Marvel in the comics. So what did you like about, Kamala as Ms. Marvel?
Um, well, the whole premise of the series drew me in because I come from that era where that you were just talking about was before you were born. Yeah. Back the era of the teen angst movies, the 16 Candles and the Breakfast Club. I was that age then.
Mhm.
So I'm a little bit older than y'all. Um, but I got to those movies and those were my movies and I kind of just stayed there.
Mhm.
So even now, me being old enough to be their grandmother, that's still my kind of movie. I kind of relate to the younger people, the girl in high school, college, or whatever. She's kind of awkward. She's, coming into her own.
Mhm.
I still relate to her because probably because I still don't know what I'm doing in my life.
All of
But
us.
so the whole series, the whole premise just spoke to me.
Mhm.
And from the first episode when it's her and her kind of awkward little friend and they're out doing geeky things and that was perfect for me. I was enveloped from the first episode. So I mean it could only I want to say it could only go up, but that's not because we were starting at a low point, but that's because we were starting like right in my heart.
I like that. I like that. And I have to agree with you. So for me, like, what, which version do I prefer? Uh, I still love Carol Danvers. That's a character that's been one of my favorites since I was a kid. She was even featured in the X-Men cartoon, fighting Rogue. But I have to admit, having watched this TV series and seeing her, here and there in the comic books, because I know she eventually became an Avenger. Um, she became a champion as well. I like what I saw. She seems fun. She seems energetic. She's a complete fangirl. There was a panel that I saw a few days ago, and it's from like maybe like 5 years ago, and she got to meet Wolverine for the first time, and she was just geeking out. She wanted his autograph, and I'm like, girl, his hand is full of blood and gore, and you want to shake his hand, and the claws is still out. So it's like, but I could relate to her in that way because the way that I love comic books, the way that I love blurred culture. I'm a fanboy at heart. You guys see what shirt I have on. You see what Teresa has on, which speaks to my heart. And so it's just something. Oh, see, I see. This is why I love you guys because it's interesting because a couple years ago, there wasn't a term for black nerds. There was just nerds or the weird ones or whatever, whatever. And now that we are, you know, in this space that's for us, and we're getting to see representation, and
Yeah.
we're getting to see ourselves through this Muslim girl, from New Jersey. I just think it was well worth the wait.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I see myself, liking the character more and more, especially with that revelation. They revealed.
Are we jumping to that already?
Not yet. I gotta pace myself, y'all. I, because I may just throw this hat across the room and start screaming. But yeah. So I'm liking where they're going with Kamala. And again, what you guys are talking about the mother, and the family. The family was adorable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I want to say, my favorite character was really her mom
Mhm.
because it was relatable. I like the part in the first episode where Kamala's like, "You don't trust me," and she's like, "No, I don't trust you. I, I, I don't trust you." And it just reminded me of so many conversations I had with my mom growing up. when you wanted to do like fun, reckless things, have your breakfast club slash 16 candles, moment. And they were like, no, I don't trust you to open the front door because you're a hot mess. But so I guess my next question, you guys kind of answered it, but Teresa, you can go first. Um, what did you like best about the show? Was it the family dynamics, or was it the graphics? What spoke to you the most?
Well, the graphics were very different. To
Mhm.
me, it gave the show a very different look. Um,
Anika, sorry.
got the verbiage there for us. Um, so that did make it more colorful, and to me, it made it more young. With like a lot of things written out in the graffiti and things like that. But really, the interaction between the young people.
Mhm.
Um, when Kamala went to AvengerCon,
Yes.
and the way she interacted with her friends, and you had the Mean Girl interactions there too,
Mhm.
um, and it was kind of funny to me. You get that through like almost all of the episodes. You get to the one episode where it's more like the history of what's going on, and there's more like more fight scenes and all that kind of the flashback and stuff. And that one, I'm kind of sitting there like, okay, can we speed this up? Can we get back to
Please and
the
thank you.
right, the lightheartedness of the friends,
Mhm.
and their interaction? But I knew it had its place. It had to finish telling the story, and I appreciate that. But yeah, just the interaction between the friends and kind of the youthfulness.
Okay. How about you, Furious?
I have two things that are actually my favorite, and I'm not sure which one is my true favorite.
Mhm.
The first one would be I like that Marvel wasn't afraid to do something different this
Mhm.
time around. Um, and I know that this show won't speak to everyone, but it speaks to the audience that they want to go after.
Mhm.
Because as a 44, I'll be 45 later this year, so I'll say as a 45-year-old man, they've already got my money. I'm well vested in Marvel. They've got to go after a younger audience to get these younger people involved. Wow, I'm really starting to sound like an old man now. But they've got to go after a much younger crowd to get the younger crowd vested the same way that I am so that they spend their money on Marvel stuff as well, be it movies, comics, TVs, whatever. So I love the fact that they weren't afraid to say, yeah, all right, old people, we got your money. Now let's come over here and focus on these younger folks and get them excited and involved. Because what was the stat that Ms. Marvel is the most watched Marvel show by younger, and I don't know if the age range was ever said in the stat, but
Right.
by younger Black and Brown people,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and that is an important statistic for them to hit because that's your new audience. Like I said, they've got my money. Now
Yeah.
they've got to get this money from this new audience. The other thing that I loved about this show was how grounded and rooted in culture that the
Yeah.
show was, from the music to, like, if you notice, like just walking in the house, they made it a point to make sure they showed you people take off their shoes. That scene when the what was that made up agency, the
Yeah.
Department of the Damage Control,
Damage control.
Yeah.
when they went into the mosque and they were just trying to go in there and search around, and they made it a point to say, yeah, and the next time you come back, take your shoes off. I
And they
love the fact that they, no, they didn't, but I love the fact that they stayed so grounded and rooted in these are the cultural norms of this particular group of people. And that to me was wonderful because it's rare that we see a mainstream production, be
Mhm.
it TV, be it movie, that pays that kind of attention to detail. And to me, that was wonderful.
I'm so glad you said that because like when I was watching the show, the first episode, kind of took me like a minute to get into because it was not my demographic. I'm gonna be 39 in 4 days, so
So young.
back on crack. So it took me a little moment to get into it, but once I found my sweet spot, I was like a kid in the candy store, and I loved the family interaction. I loved seeing like their the community. I love seeing everybody come together. Bruno had his little bodega on a corner. They don't have it down south, but we call it bodega in New York or in New Jersey. So you had that going on. I love when they showed them doing their prayer at mosque. That was pretty. Um, it was kind of like soothing for me. I liked watching it. I liked seeing the um the wedding. Because it was different from what we normally see. The Western weddings. You got the
And
white.
the bride,
And it
Yeah.
was she
Yeah.
was gorgeous, and you had
it's
them like bringing
dark and
yeah,
chocolate and wonderful.
Hmm.
chocolate and wonderful. But I loved that used to go on a shirt actually, chocolate and wonderful. I'll get back to you guys on that. But I love seeing that, and there was another part that really spoke to me. I like when they did the history lesson. When they talked about the partition.
Hmm.
We'll get into the big moment later, but for, for the partition, I never knew that. I
Right.
never knew that happened. Did it surprise me? Did it happen? No, but for them to tell their story in a way that only they could, that you have people of color, representation matters because it does. You told an authentic story, but in the guise of a superhero origin. Um, Seeing them on the trains, being forced out, having that mass exodus, that made me emotional
Hmm.
because it spoke to what our people went through.
Hmm.
It reminded me in some ways, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. You know, what our grandparents and great grandparents having to use the same book, to travel. You,
Hmm.
these are the sundown towns to avoid. Stay together. Safety in numbers.
Hmm.
And I loved when they showed us more about her great grandmother, and how she met, the man who was trying to sell his flowers, and how they were being, prejudiced against him, and how he had to go to Pakistan. It was so fulfilling,
Yeah,
and it was heartfelt, and it was sincere. So I loved seeing that. I love the fact that, yes, guys, we're spoiling. So if you guys haven't watched the show yet, it's your own fault. We're just things the way, and so it is what it is. I loved how it was full circle when they closed the time loop. When the grandmother said, "Oh yes, I got separated from my father, and a trail of stars brought me to him," and it was
Hmm.
her great granddaughter. No, no, it was her granddaughter all along. I love shit like that. I mean,
yeah,
Hmm.
it speaks to me as a storyteller. It speaks to me as a consumer, and I was here for it. So
yeah. That
for,
was a wonderful scene.
it was so heartfelt. Like for me, like I don't tear up, I don't cry. I had my tear ducts surgically removed. So when I saw when I saw that the baby crying for her mother, and you saw those people who were just trying to get on this train before God knows what happens next, that was just very moving. And she's holding her grandmother as a baby. It's like this is just it was like Roots, but not. You had
It was
Quantum Leap,
someone's roots. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
so I enjoyed that. So my next question, I want to direct this at Furious.
Before you go
Yes,
to your next question, if you don't mind, I'm going to be rude and just go back for a moment. I'm glad Furious mentioned the music. The
yeah,
music was
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
yes,
Personally, I love um, when you have those kind of urban settings, excuse me, but it's not necessarily just an American urban setting. You're somewhere else and you get the hip hop from
yeah,
wherever that is. I love that.
yeah.
Like in Black Panther when they were in
yes.
I forget I think it was in Korea,
Yeah, they were in South Korea, I think. So,
I
so
believe it
wherever.
was Korea. I believe it
Yeah,
was Korea.
yeah,
wherever they were, we got the hip hop music, that urban music from that area, and we get a lot of it um, from Ms. Marvel as well.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that, and I didn't really think about it until you mentioned it. So thank you.
no, I mean, but that's a really good point. It showed cultural relevance of it.
Mhm.
You know, there was a part where Kamala, she went to Pakistan, and the kids were all hanging out.
Mhm.
Remember, and they had the bonfire, and they
Yeah.
were eating the food out of the bag.
Mhm.
Like only someone who was from that region would really know that, and
Right.
or they would put it out in an authentic way. I like stuff like that because you're
Mhm.
learning. Of
Yeah.
course, you pertain, is the life and death situation. I'm trying to get from assassins, but these things happen. Um,
I love the fact that she asked him, "Is it spicy?" And he was like, "And he didn't find out."
Right.
and I high key would like to try that spicy cuisine like yesterday.
I would not.
Oh, I want to. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm with Kamala on that one. I have very basic American taste buds.
but yeah, I don't want to be super spicy. But give me that bag of deliciousness. I'll sample it. So my next question for you guys, let's see. Okay, so we discussed what we liked, the most about the show. Teresa, what did you like least about it?
I don't want to sound uncultured or whatever. Let me, I'm just asking you not to hold this against me. But I
Well,
kind of mentioned I'm not a history person, especially not world history, because, usually it's bad. It's bad for us anyway. We
Yeah.
should know it though. We should definitely know it, but I've never been a history person. The only class I ever failed was world history in college. Um, so my saying that I like this part the least is not me saying that, I hate it or it's unimportant. But I did mention that I preferred the here and now kind of
Mhm.
interactions between the with Kamala and her friends
mhm,
over like the flashbacks, the
mhm,
kind of history lesson, the part where we were showing her great great grandmother meeting her great grandfather, and that kind of part. It was integral to the story. We needed it. I appreciate it, but that part is going to be that's kind of what was the slowest for me.
mhm.
It didn't keep my attention as well, and that's probably why I miss stuff because you could start going into telling the history in the background, and I kind of zone out. But I watched it twice, so I think I got it.
Now, I have a quick question for you, Teresa. So when they had that scene when they showed like the ill-fated romance, did you start playing like the animal noises in the background?
No,
No.
I probably had my iPad playing some game that involved farm animals. So, but I think, like I said, I think I got everything.
The gist of it. Okay.
Yes.
Curious. How about you? What was the least favorite thing in the show for you?
So the least favorite thing for me, and this may or may not be a bit controversial, is
Okay.
my least favorite thing in the show is the change in the origin of her powers.
Yes.
Because so in the comics, she's an inhuman. She
Mm-hmm.
gets her powers when she's exposed to the Terrigen mist. She goes into a cocoon and she comes out and she's got powers.
Mm-hmm.
My first reaction to them changing the origin of where her powers comes from to me is a signal that Marvel probably doesn't care about bringing the Inhumans to either the big or the small screen. Now,
Yeah.
maybe they have a plan to do it later and they're just not going to show what that plan is, but one of the biggest and more I don't know if I want to say one of the biggest and most important Inhumans in the Inhuman pantheon you have now said she's not an Inhuman. So to me, that kind of says we don't care about the Inhumans anymore. And there are some really cool Inhuman characters. I read the comics. I tried to watch that bad TV show years ago. It was just bad.
It was
Yeah.
Um,
horrible.
it was horrible.
It-
But in the
I didn't even.
comics,
I don't even know the comics, and it was horrible.
See,
there are some really cool Inhumans in the comics. Because remember, because the Inhumans started out. I don't want to say I didn't read the Fantastic Four, so I don't know what their involvement was. But the Inhumans were a spinoff from the Fantastic Four. I don't
mhm.
know. Like I said, I don't know what the meeting and all of that was. I just know that if it weren't for the Fantastic Four, we wouldn't have the Inhumans.
That's
But again, there are some really cool Inhumans that I'm worried now we may or may not get to see. But considering that, some people look at the Inhumans and be like, okay, they're just mutants 2.0. And now that Marvel owns the film rights to the X-Men again, maybe we don't need the Inhumans. So I don't know. So I don't know where they're going to go with it. But that was my least favorite, was the change in the origin of her powers. Now, the thing to me that makes that change, but they mentioned her having,
but yeah,
yeah. But the thing that made that change in her powers really interesting is it takes us down this cultural journey, because now the bangle, since it unlocks something in her, now we get to learn all this extra stuff about the bangle and where it comes from. And so even though the change is my least favorite thing, it takes us down this really, really cool and interesting journey into more of the Pakistani culture that
mhm.
is her family. So my least favorite thing actually turns out to be something pretty cool for the series.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that because you guys know by now that I love comic books. I've been a Marvel fanatic now for about like 30 years or so. So with Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, becoming Ms. Marvel, I was looking forward to seeing her elastic powers because
Yeah.
basically she can enlarge herself. She's like Mr. Fantastic, but brown and young and female, and we're okay with that. So I was kind of irritated as well, and when I say kinda, I really was irritated. Um, I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
You could have two characters with similar powers. It's not that serious. That irritated me, and I'm kind of wagging my finger at Marvel because they were so nasty to the X-Men franchise about 10 years ago. So we're gonna push the Inhumans. We're gonna push it. They started seeding them throughout the Ages of Shield, TV show. Daisy slash Quake is an Inhuman, and yada yada yada.
Mhm.
Then you had that horrific TV show that I didn't finish. But furious to what you were saying, like yes, there are some really kick-ass Inhumans. Black Bolt, who we saw in Doctor Strange. If you haven't seen the movie yet, it's your own fault. It came out 2 months ago, so it was good seeing. Like his whisper can level a mountain. So
Yeah.
I want to see him again at some
Yeah.
point. Medusa, she could control her hair,
Yeah.
and to a point where she could like strangle you with just one thread of it, because
Mhm.
is. Crystal, her baby sister, she's an elemental. She can control fire, water, wind, and the earth. Karnak, he could figure out your weakness and he can
Yep.
exploit it just by looking at you.
Yep.
And you have
Gorgon.
Oregon, who he can stomp and create earthquakes.
Yep.
That would have been so nice to see, and maybe they will still do it, but I don't know. Marvel is, they're turning like a blind eye to Inhumans now because now that you got the X-Men, back in your lap.
Well, I think I don't think it's just that. I think it's they want to get as far away from that bad TV show as they can.
Yeah.
They're because was that before Kevin Feige took over?
Give me a second.
I don't know, because the thing that I like now is anything MCU, be it a movie or a TV show, has to go through Kevin Feige. And I'm wondering if the Inhumans TV show was pre-Feige. As bad as it was, it really makes me think it was pre-Feige because everything that man has put his hand on has been successful.
I want to say it wasn't pre-Feige because he made it clear in the beginning that the MCU had no bearing on Agents of Shield, even though Agents of Shield had a lot of callbacks to what
Okay.
was happening. And plus, it was still a couple years before they got the rights back to Fantastic Four and the X-Men.
Yeah.
They had a dud, and they like, this shit stinks. So we're not going anywhere near it. And it sucks because it's still a property that you own. So just redo it.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. So for me, Scott
Buck.
Okay. And you know what? And they should never use him again. We're good. So hopefully, in the next 10 years or so, they will, circle back to the Inhumans. But, I think it's a missed opportunity in some ways. Now, to call back to what we had someone say in the chat a few minutes ago when they did the whole, mutation thing. I'm getting there, guys. I'm getting there. Yes, they can say it's inhuman or otherwise, but I'm not going to hold my breath because I'll probably end up passing out and hitting my head on the edge of the coffee table. So yes, the powers was he. See, I mean,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he doesn't need to make any more shows
Yeah,
for
no.
Marvel.
enough is enough. I won't stand for this.
No.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so now we can discuss the big moment. So, Furious, what did you think about the big MCU moment? And yes, you could say it all.
Are we so? Well, which MCU moment?
Okay, the one when we heard the theme song play.
So I think that may be a bit of misdirection.
What?
I think that might be a bit of misdirection. So he's referring to there's a scene at the end of the series when Kamala is talking to I can't remember her friend's name. Bruno, thank you. Yes, she's talking to Bruno.
Just remember, we don't talk about Bruno.
And she's talking to Bruno, and I like the fact that she's got her own in-house techie kind of guy.
Yes.
That to me is just really cool. But yeah, I like that they're having a conversation, and he's letting her know that it may not necessarily be the bangle that gives her her powers, but maybe a mutation. Right. And when he says that, they play the quick little 2-second snippet of the X-Men from the 90s theme song to kind of let you know, hey, maybe she's a mutant. I don't know. The other thing that gives that a lot of validity, though, is the Department of Damage Control. They are chasing after these enhanced. Oh, and we didn't even talk about the son, the lady's son, but they're chasing after Kamala and the son because they're enhanced individuals, almost as if they are being persecuted the same way that the mutants were persecuted. So I don't know. A part of me hopes that's a little bit of misdirection. I don't know. I think that might be a little bit of misdirection. However, even if it's not misdirection, it would be an interesting way to introduce the X-Men, or not even just the X-Men, but mutants in general, through Kamala Khan, because that to me just gives her even more significance and importance in the MCU, because you are the vessel that brought us. Well, now that I think about it, that may not necessarily be such a great thing for her character as a standalone character if she's just being used as a vessel to bring us another group of people. But at any rate, I'm not. I have to do a little bit of thinking on that. But I think it's really, really cool that she might be the way we get the X-Men introduced into the MCU. I also think it might be a little bit of misdirection. She's our kitty. Ooh. That's a
If
really interesting thing, Ryan. Thank
you
you.
don't say the N word, I'm okay with it because Kitty.
Kamala is our Kitty Pride. That's really cool. I didn't think about it that way, but that's a really good point. So yeah, so maybe she's our Kitty Pride. So yes, I think that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. Um, but yes, especially since she's from a race called the Jinn, and I don't know. I wonder how all of this is going to get connected as we move into maybe season two. Um, we'll see. But yeah, it will be really interesting if she is indeed our Kitty Pride and we get the X-Men through her. It's interesting. It's funny that they did that because now here's the thing, because I just binged the entire series this weekend.
Thank you.
I well, it was on my
He
list.
had to. It was
Yeah.
homework.
Well, it was on my list of series to watch, but
Like
honestly,
Teresa,
it
for real.
wasn't that high on the list because Ms. Marvel isn't she's not a character I care that much about.
Yeah.
But it was on my list to watch because I did enjoy her comics. So I was like, I do want to watch the series and get caught up. But the thing that I started noticing, and I don't know if it started. I don't know if it started. Wait, which part am I correct about?
Yeah, Ryan, we
Just-
need you to
just in
elaborate.
general.
But sorry, no. So the thing that I started noticing, I started seeing people post all these memes on Facebook and Twitter and on social media in general about how the X-Men were claiming Kamala as one of their own. Now,
Oh,
what
yeah.
I don't know is, did that start before or after the theme music was played at the end to kind of point us in that direction?
It was after,
Okay.
but I do want to add, currently, because Marvel's not slick. They have a comic book out now. Ms. Marvel is she has 3 issues coming out. There's one where she teams up with the X-Men. There's teams up with Wolverine, and it's like this is going on right now. So yeah, they know what they want, and they know what I want too. Gimme. Teresa, what do you think? What was your thoughts on the big event?
Well, if we're still talking about that particular event with the X-Men theme song playing in the background, I'm
Mhm.
not a comic person, so I don't know where to go with that. I don't know what to
Did
do
you see
with
the
it.
cartoon? Did you watch the cartoon though?
No,
Yeah, Teresa, you have homework.
I
It's
do.
on Disney Plus.
Okay.
It's so good.
Yeah, it really is. And they're supposed to be bringing it back for a second series.
Okay,
Are
so
we talking? What are we talking? What if?
No, the X-Men
cartoon.
cartoon from the 90s.
Okay. Gotcha.
I've seen articles talking about Marvel is bringing it back for another run.
Mhm.
We'll see if that ends up being true or not. But that
It
was
is.
one of
It's true. I followed it closely, guys. It's called
okay.
97. They're going to show you the first look at the Comic Con tomorrow. And now I'm thinking I would not be surprised if they had Ms. Marvel in it. But I don't know.
I actually read that when they were talking about
Cool.
potential trailers that they
Hmm.
could be debuting at San Diego Comic Con. I remember that being one of them.
If you hear it screeching, no matter where you are,
I'm gonna look for the red hat
you
flying.
look for my hat flying overhead because it's okay. So when I was a kid, an X-Men cartoon came out October 31st, 1992. So I was 9 years old. I said, what is this deliciousness on my TV screen at 11 o'clock on the Saturday morning, right? Fell in love with it because it spoke to a lot of what we went through as people, the persecution, all that good stuff. And then I saw this majestic character with the most snow white hair, these stiletto boots, and these, amazing shoulder pads. I'm like, who is that? I didn't know who she is, right? So I watched the cartoon. I fell in love with it, and actually played a big part in me being a comic book writer now, and creating my own character with her. So when they canceled the show in 1997, they had the final episode, and Xavier had he left the team and everything. That was it. But then last year when they had Disney Plus Day, they said they were going to bring back the cartoon not so much as a reboot, but as a continuation. Because
Mm.
you guys remember, I don't know if you guys have Disney Plus. You should by this point. You probably do. So Disney Plus, you could change your icon, and initially I had Ursula because Ursula's, she's bad and I love her, and you could change it to any Disney character. But last year on April 1st, because I thought it was a joke, they had the X-Men up there, and I'm like, what's going on here? But with the Storm icon, they gave her a mohawk, but with the cartoon costume. I'm like, don't play with my emotions because I'll start screaming, right? They confirmed it in November that they were bringing back the cartoon, but it's X-Men '97. So
Ooh.
I will go crazy, y'all. I will bite a hole through my kneecap or something. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm there for it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So this is
go ahead.
six years of a cartoon that I have to catch up on. That's my homework.
Yes, but Teresa, but it's you know what for a cartoon that is that old, it aged well, and of course you get to see Storm. So I mean, what more could you ask for, right?
Right.
It's a great cartoon.
It is. It is.
You need to watch it. Please, yeah. All right,
I don't know now because remember that's in the era when shows had 23 episodes.
Yeah. Oof.
but it's only 30 minutes, maybe 25 minutes per episode. You could binge that bad boy in a week or so. I believe in you. Girl, I believe in you.
Okay.
So, so my thoughts on the big event. So for me, I try to watch the shows when they come out because people like to spoil shit online. So I remember there was some talk. Okay, guys, there's a big MCU moment, for Ms. Marvel, and I'm like, you know what? After work, I will, log in, and see what's going on. And when he said the mutation thing, and I'm like, no. And I heard the little music, but it was kind of different. So my brother, who's also an X-Men fanatic, even though like I'm just in my own, universe, I called him into the room. I said, Malcolm, I want you to listen to this because I'm hearing something that may not be, playing. He said, okay. So he played it back and we looked at each other. He said, Malachi, that's the X-Men theme song. I screamed, right? So after I screamed 3 times, I watched it 3 more times. And then, of course, I went online to see, what was the feedback. And people were like, yes, they're going to finally do the whole mutants thing. This is the way they're going to bring them in. And I'm okay with that. Because if you guys remember with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, when Sam and Bucky went to, Korea or whatever, they made a quick there was a quick glance at Madripoor.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the Princess Bar. Now, if you guys read X-Men like me, you would know that Madripoor, that's it's not a mutant nation, but that's where all the mutants pretty much hung out. The Princess Bar is a bar that's owned by Wolverine. So you started seeing stuff like that. Black Widow, there's a scene where what's his name? Is it Red Guardian? Hopper from Stranger Things.
Yep, Red Guardian.
Red Guardian. So he's about to arm wrestle this man who's Ursa Major. I want to say Ursa Major. That's a known mutant in the comic books. So they already started the process.
See, I need to go watch Black Widow.
Yeah, you should. It's not a bad movie. It's pretty good.
Well, see, my problem is I don't care about heroes who don't have powers.
Oh, that is really.
You're not a super. If you don't have powers, you're not a superhero.
What is Batman?
Batman's a rich white guy.
That's true.
With issues.
I mean, same thing with Tony Stark, rich white guy. Don't get me wrong. They are heroes, but they're not superheroes.
But you can be super without your powers, right?
No, you can't.
Oh my.
This is a hill I'm willing to die on. But yeah, so I characters who don't, when it comes to superhero cartoon or movies and cartoons, if you don't have powers, I don't really care that much about you. The other thing I'm not a fan of is in order to really keep up, you've got to watch everything that the MCU puts out.
Yeah.
But if they don't have powers, I don't care. I'm sorry, I just don't. So that means I don't care about Hawkeye. I
Well,
don't care
let's.
about Black Widow.
So did you not watch the Hawkeye Disney Plus series?
I have not watched that yet either.
Oh wow. Okay.
It was good too.
It was good.
And that's what I've heard, but you don't have any powers.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so who else? You
And
have
I'm
to.
and I'm gonna go on the record, and this is gonna be very, very blasphemous.
Oh my
And
goodness.
people may want to take my black card, but I don't care. I have an asterisk next to T'Challa because he gets his powers from a flower. They're not natural. They weren't imbued because of some cosmic accident. They can be given and taken away anytime he drinks a drink. Falcon as well. Wonderful character, not a superhero.
So you don't consider Captain America a superhero?
I put an asterisk by his name.
Oh my gosh.
Can I? We. Never mind.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
no.
Go ahead. No. I am very okay with this. This has been my stance on superheroes since I was probably 8 years old. So I doubt you're gonna come at me with anything I haven't already heard.
No, I was just gonna ask if we could trade you in the draft.
Ooh, you know what? I
Ooh.
would be opposed to that idea.
Ooh. Who would you trade me to?
I don't know. We gotta.
Anyone.
Did you say anyone?
You know, of course
Wow.
we'll take them. Just go. No
I'm just-
shade, but plenty of
I'm sorry. And I know we're talking about Marvel stuff, but it's like anytime I watch anything Batman related, I'm like, how have they not killed Batman yet? How is he still alive?
Now I love me some
That
Batman, but
rich.
How is he still alive?
it keeps him alive. It's the privilege.
I mean, I get how Tony Stark is alive because Tony Stark's whole thing is always protection. So I get it. He's always got something around him to protect him. I can accept that because he's got the nanite suit. He's got a force field that radiates around him to protect. I get that, but how's Hawkeye still alive?
I mean, well, you know, if you watch the TV show, they were saying he was dealing with, you know, some of the fallout, you know,
Yeah.
physically.
Yeah.
You know,
No. From what I know about the Hawkeye show and what he's dealing with, it sounds like it's really, really good. It really does sound like it's a good show. It's just it hasn't made it to my watch. I haven't gotten to it yet. That's all.
no, it's understandable. You know, we're not going to judge you too harshly, but
No.
we will judge you though.
I'm okay with that. I am very okay with that.
I
somebody-
get it though. There's so much. There's
Yeah.
so much out there. You know, so much MCU that's cinematic and cartoon animated and
Mhm.
TV. There's so much. So you kind of have to have some guidelines as far
Yeah.
as what's, you know, what makes the list and what doesn't. I haven't watched that X-Men show because I can't. Animated superhero just for some reason doesn't catch my attention. It doesn't hold my attention. Even as much of a Black Panther head as I am, I had every episode of the Black Panther animated series on my DVR, and I tried a couple of times. I deleted it. I
The
couldn't.
stop motion look, you know, that it wasn't for me either.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it.
That
So
was
I mean,
that was a good series though. That
and
was
I've
a
heard
good
that, but
series.
it just that the superhero
Yeah,
animation
I get
does
you.
not
I get it.
hold my attention as much as I love other animated stuff.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna
Yes,
if it means
definitely
filling
so.
in some gaps, I'm gonna give it a try.
Well, one thing I think for me that made Ms. Marvel a good, quick, easy watch is so one of the things I like about shows when it comes to streaming services is there's no set length of time that each episode has to be.
Yeah.
The episode length is decided by the story they're telling in that particular episode. And I love how with Miss Marvel, some of the episodes were 30 minutes, a couple of them were 40 minutes, A
Mhm.
couple of them were like 49 minutes. It's whatever the length needs to be to tell the story.
Yeah.
And that I could get behind because one of the things that I thought was really, really good about Miss Marvel was the pacing on the show. Hawkeye is resourceful.
That's true.
Okay, that's
Right, you're
fair. That's
right.
fair. Um,
The Hulk is just a mess and purple
oh, I
pants.
love, I love the Hulk. There,
Okay.
I love the Hulk, but there's a whole nother reason why I
Yeah.
love the Hulk. But one of the things that was really, really good about Ms. Marvel was the pacing. It made it easy to watch because there's no wasted time on
Mm,
any of those episodes. From start of the episode to the end of the episode, it is packed full of important stuff
Hmm.
you've got to pay attention to.
yeah.
Like I said, the one episode where she's rushing home, and when is it? Oh, it's after the dude drops her off, and she's real smitten with him, and she comes running in the house. She drops her book bag. She stops at the door, and they make it a point to show again, showing her taking off her shoes. Again, not a
Mm,
wasted second. The
Hmm.
pacing was just on point, and you just knew every second of that show mattered. And to
yeah.
me, that's one of the other things that makes it an excellent show is like with anime. With some anime, you end up with all these filler arcs.
Mm,
There was no filler in this show.
that's true.
Everything from start to finish was important and you had to pay attention. There were a couple of times where I may have not been paying as close attention as I should have. I had to rewind it and rewatch certain things a couple of times. And I was like, ooh, that was interesting. That one episode with when they talked when she went back in time to the partition or when they were showing the partition. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, wait, rewind.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so the pacing was excellent. It no wasted space in this show.
You know what I liked about the way they paced the show. I liked how there's a part where she's talking to, I forgot the boy's name, but the one that she was, the smart
Kamran.
is you said
Thank you. Yep.
Kamran.
okay. It's not a rapper.
I think it is because actually every time they said his name, Cameron is the rapper,
Yeah,
but
because
his name was named
In,
Kamran.
in here up there in your neck of the woods, Malachi?
huh?
In here up there in your neck of the woods?
He could be. He could be. Uh, so, so there's a scene where when they're having lunch or whatever, I guess, and they mentioned somebody's name and it didn't click to me until I saw an article. So let me go back. They referenced Kingo from the Eternals because he was in
Yeah.
Bollywood movies, and I'm like, that was real slick, and I love how
Yeah.
you did that because
Yep.
Kingo, he was one of my favorite in Eternals, and I wish they showed more of him in it, but he was hilarious in the movie. But
Yeah.
I
Was.
liked how they connected things, how they made sure that hey,
Mm,
we're part of a bigger story,
yeah.
Hmm.
and that's something that I'm gonna say it, that Warner Brothers / DC is still struggling with.
They
Um,
need a Kevin Feige.
They're
I've got
struggling with a lot.
yeah, friends of mine, we'll have these conversations, and I keep saying until they get a Kevin Feige, their live action universe is just going to be all over the place. Their animated stuff is always on point, but their
yes,
live action movies, I there's no consistency. It's just everywhere.
we don't need 32 flavors of Batman. Like if
I
I don't
don't.
do another one again, I'm still good. I mean, you have a plethora of superheroes to choose from.
Yeah,
Like you don't got to stick to the same Superman and Batman formula. That's why Marvel is winning because they are like you said earlier. They're not afraid to take risks. They're not
yeah,
afraid to showcase their roster of characters.
yeah,
No one was thinking about Ms. Marvel like 3 years ago, but here she is now. With a show that has touched the hearts of so many
yep,
people,
absolutely.
and now she's the doorway to bringing the mutants. And I just wish that DC, and I love DC. Let me put it out there. DC, I still love them. I love Marvel more, but I just wish that they would just wake up. You have Ezra Miller. Just do whatever they want to do. Um, it's on the Zack Snyder cut. Which was better, but you guys, you guys are just missing. You're just missing it. But
Like I said, until they get a Kevin Feige.
and that's we might have to do another show just based on that alone because I'm vexed by it. Like I don't even touch like most DC books now because it's like I don't care. Let me stick to the House of Ideas type thing. But I do have another question for you all before I go off on another tangent. Forgive me. Um, so Teresa, what other MCU heroes would you like to see Ms. Marvel deal with? You can.
Um, hmm.
Oh, we definitely need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had I had a thought. It went away. Spider-Man. I mean, they're kind of, the kind of younger, enthusiastic kind of a team up. I think that would be interesting.
Do you want Parker or Morales?
Good question. That's a very good question. I was thinking Parker, but Morales would be something.
Yeah.
Ooh, so Tamika, if I'm reading your comment correctly, you pretty much want to see a Champions movie.
Yep. Or Young Avengers or whatever you want to call it. Either
Yeah.
or would be fine. Even though they're
Young
on
Young
it.
Avengers is probably doable because in the Kang storyline, since it's been announced that Kang is the next big baddie for the MCU,
Mhm.
isn't there a storyline where Kang is actually a descendant of Reed Richards and they somehow get like his younger self? Am
I
I,
thought
am I
I know it was Tony Stark because Iron Lad was one of the founding Young Avengers, and I know he was the teenage version of King.
Oh, it's Iron Lad and okay. I
Yeah.
know somebody in the Younger Avengers is a
Mhm.
teenage version of Kane,
Yeah.
and that would be really interesting. I don't know if that would be a flashback or whatever, but yes, that would be interesting. So, and I think I have to go look it up later. I think we're going to get some Young Avengers. I'm not 100% certain, but
They
I'll
have,
look that up later.
they have to because if you look at it for the last 2 years, they've been shown, the Young Avengers in different titles. You
Yeah.
had WandaVision, Billy and Tommy, that's what Wiccan and Speed.
Hmm.
Then you have Elijah Bradley. He was featured in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's
Hmm.
Kate Bishop. If you watched Hawkeye, she's also a young Avenger.
Yep. Hmm.
Who
What
else?
about America Chavez? I'm
Yes.
asking. I don't
Yep.
know.
No, you're right though. Yes, because she's also was she a young Avenger or was she more of an ultimate? I mean, they could still make her a young Avenger. That'd be
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Now they could go the route of champions. I mean the thing I like is because of the young roster that we've seen so far, and who knows who else we're going to get. They could either go young Avengers or they could go champions. I
yeah.
I didn't read the Champions comic, so I don't know much about it. I mean, I know it exists. I know it's a team of the younger heroes,
Mhm.
but what if they went the Champions route instead of the Young Avengers route?
Because they certainly could. You could mesh them together. There was
Yeah.
another what's coming out soon. Okay, so for the upcoming Black Panther movie,
Hmm.
on Forever, they said they're going to introduce Riri Williams. Iron.
Hmm.
Now, I know she becomes a champion, but she could easily be a young Avenger too. Just is it really based on which name they want to apply to it because it's essentially the same team, at least to me. What do I always say? Why did they make her Mexican instead of Puerto Rican? I don't know if she was Mexican.
I didn't know they ever actually said what her
I don't
ethnic
know,
makeup was.
I didn't
That's
realize
I
that
did not
either.
realize that.
but it's possible. I
Yeah.
mean, as long as she's brown, okay. That's
Yeah.
I'm just saying. All right, so they said that Ms. Marvel is going to return. Oh, that's right. So she's going to return in the Marvels.
Hmm.
What did you guys think about the final scene where they switch places, Kamala and Carol?
I'm kind of indifferent on that particular
Why?
scene. It didn't do anything for me.
Um,
I don't I guess because I didn't quite understand what was the thing that switched Carol and Kamala's places.
I have a theory. Would you like to hear it?
Of course.
Um, sure. Do we have time?
Yeah. Do we have time?
Um, yeah, we have about 3 more minutes. I want to say maybe. So I'm gonna do it quickly. So my theory is, if you okay, Furious, you may remember Captain Marvel, the original one from the late '60s. He had the nega bands.
Hmm.
He would teleport. He would switch places with Rick Jones. Rick Jones was the Hulk's, sidekick, who became Bucky in the '70s. Remember when Kamala's great grandmother, they found the bangle and it was attached to a blue arm? That's a Kree.
Hmm.
That's a dead Kree that probably came here, centuries ago. So I'm thinking that they're going to reveal that that bangle is actually a nega band,
Mega band.
and
Hmm.
now that she can access it, now they're able to switch, which is a nice way to acknowledge the original one that came out in the late '60s, early
That's
'70s.
actually pretty cool theory.
I could be wrong and all, but that's what I'm thinking.
I read that somewhere. So if you're wrong, they're wrong too.
Yeah,
I
they better.
like it.
All right, so my next question, guys, I'm sorry because I've run on and on and on. Where can we find you guys on social media? Teresa, you go first.
Oh, just under my name. I'm simple like that. Just under my name. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I haven't done anything on TikTok, but I'm there. Um, it's my name, Teresa Kennedy.
Okay, all right. Thank you, thank you. Furious, where can we find you?
Mr. ATL for life. MRATL, the number 4, LIFE.
Thank you, thank you. And you guys can find me. It's Mal, the writer, at it's on Instagram. Of course, there's underscores between each word. I'm also on Facebook. Just look up Malachi Bailey. I do have an author page. But guys, thank you so much for joining me this week. I had a lot of fun.
Yes.
This was I love how it was on a whim because we could not stop talking about it last week when it was still
Yeah.
delicious. Because I was like, listen, y'all, I'm gonna start screaming. I'm still screaming. So
And Tamika said
I'm
she
gonna,
loved this. So Tamika, definitely have to tune in when we have everybody back again because we're gonna be doing this at least once a month.
yeah, we have a lot to say about
Yes.
all these projects. Teresa, if you're up to it, check out the X-Men, cartoons, at least one episode so you can see what they're going to announce
Absolutely.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool stuff.
Rose says she
And I
got to see
did
the
see
leaked
that.
Ironheart suit in the upcoming movie.
I did not, but I will go look for it when we finish.
Rose, send it to me after I wrap this up because I'm nosy.
Well, awesome. Well, like you probably saw in the chat that we're definitely going to have to schedule a Marvel versus DC discussion. Rose said he just sent that to you, Malachi.
Thank you.
But yeah, we're definitely dig deep, and everybody that are Marvel or DC fans definitely be on the lookout for that announcement so you can tune in and interact in the comments. I'd like to thank our panelists for a great discussion.
Thank you.
Panels are hard, especially topics like this, to get everything in an hour, but we try.
Yeah.
And of course, audience, if there is something that you hear us talking about, you want us to come back and do a part two, please let us know. We have no problem in scheduling a part two because some of
Not at
this
all.
stuff do need a part two.
Overrated.
But everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Everyone, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in a few minutes. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
See you
guys.
guys.